This is probably the most famous Ypsilanti ghost story, even though it supposedly didn't happen in Ypsilanti proper, but just west of Ypsilanti. Which haunts a house, ghost is departed, they hope. This is from the Detroit News. What year? 1972. November 1st, 1972. By Beverly Eckman. Old Jed's spirit left with the black cat as it scurried away at the exorcist's command. The cat came back. Hopefully, old Jed has gone on to other things. It happened yesterday on Halloween, a day traditionally associated with communing with the dead. At least some people think it happened. For this is the story about a young family who believed their house was haunted. You can read it as a true story, which they believe it is, or as a ghost story just for creepy, scary thrills. It started in June when Mr. and Mrs. DeLong bought a new home. That's not their real name because he is a young executive whose bosses might frown on the ghost. The house, new to them, was an old home in a residential area west of Ypsilanti. They loved it and began furnishing it with their treasures. Then funny little things started happening. Coughing. The DeLongs each thought it was the other at first. Mrs. DeLong, home alone with her infant son all day, felt she was being watched. The baby would look up and point at something, but nothing could be seen. One day, around the 1st of July, Mrs. DeLong said she went upstairs and heard footsteps behind her, but no one was there. All of a sudden, it hit me. There was something there. It was a spirit. We had joked about it, but now it was serious. That weekend, her husband's father and brother came to visit. The brother, too, got a strong impression of a man. By concentrating, we got an image of an old man. His breathing was labored, Mrs. DeLong said. But that was not all. There was heavy cigarette smoke when no one was smoking. There was knocking and footsteps and lights turned on and off. One day, Mrs. DeLong was returning home with two girlfriends, and all three saw an old man in an upstairs window, but he was gone when they checked the room. They felt, though, that something was there. The DeLongs started looking for help. They checked around and from a variety of sources found that the elderly man who had lived in the house before they bought it had died in a nursing home after a long illness. He loved his house and had not wanted to leave it, but when he was dying, his wife, with power of attorney, had sold the house. The manifestations began the day he died. The description matched. It was the ghost of old Jed. The DeLongs held awake for him, but he stayed on. Mrs. DeLong saw him now as a dark shadow. Both Catholics, they had masses said for him, but still he stayed, taking up residence in what had been his room, an upstairs bedroom. They turned to the church for help. The church tried to be helpful, but whoever we asked passed us on to someone else, Mrs. DeLong said. They didn't say it wasn't possible. They were just too busy. Finally, desperate, the DeLongs turned to the witch Gundella, Mrs. Marion Kuklo of Garden City, for help. Yesterday morning, Gundella, assisted by another witch from her coven, I believe it was Gloria Ladd, but I could be wrong, set out to send old Jed on to his reward or his punishment. In an elaborate ritual, they first lighted incense, placed a black mirror. I have one just for good effect, based on this story. And Gundella summoned old Jed to listen. Gundella had visited his grave and brought back soil from it, which she placed on the mirror. You are no more, she told the spirit. The body that was yours has been returned to the earth from whence it came. Here is dust from that grave. The soul that inherited, I don't know what it says, this body is now freed, I will guess. Let it be bound to the earth no more. Now it must soar upward and outward, reuniting with others of its kind. In each corner of every room was placed a mixture of incense as the exorcist and the young mother and child worked their way down to the basement, repeating the command for the spirit to leave. Outside, Gundella circled the house with a flaming brand, erecting invisible walls to protect the house and keep out spirits. She sprinkled the exterior with water to wash away any place a restless spirit might lodge, and then it began to rain. He has gone on, said the witch, and the young mother. Every night and every day I lived in a state of terror, she said. I hope that now it has ended, and that old Jed has found peace. Despite the terror, she did not wish him ill.